Nonsense. Let's talk MindSense. I'm your host, Meena J.
मन की बातें तो होती रहेंगी. Keep watching MindSense. I'm your host, Sarita Chand. And today in the studios we have Shabnam Khan. Shabnam, a warm welcome to you to MindSense.
Thank you, Sarita, and thank you, Meena.
So Shabnam, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, you already said my name, and I'm from Fiji Islands originally.
Okay.
And after graduating, done my high school, I went to Australia for further studies, and I stayed there for roughly 4 years. And then after completing my degree in there, then I went back to Fiji, and I got
What
married.
did you complete?
I did masters. I did my bachelor's degree in business studies.
Okay.
Yeah. And went back to Fiji, then I married, then I came to Canada. My husband's from Fiji. And I've been here for like 25 years now. And when I came to Canada, the first job I took was for Vancouver Credit Union.
Okay.
And then I worked for a couple of years, and then I started, I think it's time for a career change. And then I went for this counseling, and I did my studies here.
So I'm just thinking, in a less than a minute, you have born and raised.
You've gone everywhere, come back, got married.
Born and raised from Fiji, went to Australia to study, went back to Fiji, then migrated to Canada. So, I'm thinking, I had just migrated to Canada from Fiji as well, and that was challenging enough. And you had gone to Australia back. Talk to us a bit about your experience.
Okay, it has been it wasn't a real easy journey. It was a tough journey. Especially back home, I went to a religious school. It was a Carmel college, it was a Muslim school. So there, we were girls and boys were separate. So that was a totally different environment. Growing up, going to school, and then seldom we would interact with boys, and that will be a big deal.
Oh my God!
We'll end up in the principal's office if that ever happened.
Talking
to boys, that there was a letter in between, something got transferred, so that was a big deal. But then I went to Australia. That was a culture shock for me too.
So did you go to Australia to study? That was your...
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, just for study. And then... and then I saw that was very different, being an immigrant, going from there. I was only 18 years old, traveling to a different country, and a lot of changes, and I found a lot of students from all over the world.
Lots of boys in your class.
And I'm allowed to talk to boys here.
And I'm allowed to, and because I was shy, oh my God, so shy. Why, oh my God, how is that going to break? And then everybody will come into me and say, do you have a boyfriend? I said, no. That was a big deal again. Why doesn't she have one?
Oh dear.
And then things, changed, and then slowly I realized this is how it is. I got faced with it, and I moved on. I made lots of friends, and I stayed there. I had my relatives, family members there as well.
Okay.
So that helped, and then after, in between, I went to Fiji a few times. My sister got married in between, and I traveled. Yeah, and also a tragic did happen when I was in Australia. I lost one of my best cousins.
Oh.
And so that wasn't a good experience. And him being an immigrant, he has just been in Australia for about maybe 6 months or so, and things didn't go. Things did happen. His marriage didn't go well, and I was at the uni one at the time, and I got a call, and then I heard that he has committed suicide.
Wow.
So that took a shift, and
So he was in Australia at that time when you were there?
No, he came after me.
After you,
Yeah.
okay.
So he was waiting for his papers, and then he came. So that took a shift. And then I already had a question, just in case he had a chance to talk to somebody, what he's going through, why he did what he did, but there's always a question. No, still there is.
Yeah.
So that was back then, and then I thought, gosh, this is lots. I wish there's something done in the community for people who are immigrants.
So you were studying business at that time?
I was studying business.
So is that because of that, that kind of shifted your focus on what you wanted to do?
Kind of, a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, think about that. You leave your family, your everything that you know when you go abroad to study, and there's a whole culture shock there, and on top of that, such a huge tragedy can impact, so much, such a huge impact. How did you move forward from that? What were your supports, or what did you do?
When my cousin passed away, then my dad came. Fiji is like 4 or 5
4
hours
hours
flight
away.
from
Mhm.
Fiji.
Mhm.
So he did come, but it was kind of late.
Mhm.
We went to his funeral.
Mhm.
I was there, so
Mhm.
I was glad that my dad came.
Mhm.
So he was very close to my family.
Mhm.
He used to spend all the weekends at home because we are a family of 4 sisters. We don't have a brother.
Oh, okay.
So he used to do soccer and stuff, and then he'll come home. He'll have tea and stuff, and he'll spend. Still today, I don't talk much about my cousin,
Mhm.
but in a part of me, I'm still connected.
Mhm.
And I think, I told myself maybe I need to change that too because it's part of grief that I'm holding for a long time.
Mhm.
So that's when I went to school,
Mhm.
and then that changed a lot
Okay.
for me.
Mhm.
I'm getting just good things from
Yeah.
talking about him. So I just picture the day when that all happened.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um,
So it wasn't easy. Sarita, going back to your question, it wasn't easy.
mhm.
And my dad was a big support for me at that time. So he spent that, like, he had his cousins there too.
Mhm.
So he stayed there for a week and then he came back.
Okay. So you did go back to Fiji after your studies. So you were studying business. So did you work in Fiji?
No. Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah.
my grandpa actually, he was the one. I should be so thankful for my grandpa. He runs the BP BP. What is it? The gas.
Oh, the Burnsville gas station.
Gas
Okay.
station in Lautoka. So I stayed with them for a little bit.
Mhm.
So and then I worked in his business for a little bit.
Mhm.
So and then he was the one who kind of coordinated this marriage.
Okay.
So we're far related to this. And then I talked to my husband over the phone. Within 2 months, everything was arranged, and then we started in October, and then actually my husband also had his mom passed away here. So within 2 months he was in Fiji.
Mhm.
So after talking, sharing stories, that time we didn't have this Facebook,
Yes,
the
a lot of
Zoom,
social
we used to
media
be on
stuff,
the phone,
yeah.
right?
And not like you could be endless on the phone. Like phone calls were so expensive at that
expensive.
time. So it was like
$1,000,
Yeah.
$500.
But
Yeah.
you also were living in Australia and seeing the Western culture.
Yes.
So did you think that I'm gonna have an arranged marriage, or you were okay, or maybe I'm gonna have a love marriage, or how what were your views?
I was okay with my
Yeah.
grandparents because I trust in them and I know that they know the family, so it should be good. So less for me to do anyways.
Yeah.
So I was okay with anything, whatever comes up, right?
Yes.
So and I really we kind of have a lot of commonalities when I talk to him. So yeah, so that was well.
So Shabnam, you are a counselor now. So I know you mentioned that that there is history behind why you had a why question if there was, and that also shaped you to to do what you do now. So tell us a little bit more about your education going into the counseling program, shift from business into Canada and then going into counseling. How was the experience and
Yeah. So when I came, as I say, I started off with Vancity. So I worked for a year. And my passion, it was there. I like to meet people every time, but it was all like dealing with money all the time. Well, what I've studied about. But then part of me said, maybe there's something else I need to do besides that. And at that time, this was 2000, a year after I got married. That's when I started going to school. I joined it. And I needed to do lots of practicum because my study was not recognized here because it was in Australia and Fiji. You know how that works.
Yeah.
And had a lot of accreditation and that. So that was a long process for me. And I had to do a lot of volunteer work. So I was lucky. I did like Constant Training Institute downtown at that time. So I did that. And then I did Atira Women's Resource Society, a lot of practicum. I did work for PICS, Progressive Intercultural Society, and also for Options for Communities and Surrey Women's Center. So I was involved a lot of in the community work, and I really loved the connection. And I was enjoying it. The people I met and my supervisor, everybody was just great, amazing. And I'm like, this is where you belong. This is what I want to do. So I graduated, and then I opened my own practice too. So. And after opening my practice, I sublet with one of the doctors, family physicians in Scott Road. He's retired now. So it was amazing how many people, especially the immigrant people, I talk about that a lot because I faced that myself. So that was part of me, and a lot of still lacking. Some people don't come up and talk about this. And then, so that's what my career started from that side to that. And I graduated, I had my 2 daughters in between. So now they're all both graduated as well. So think and I work for another organization I want to mention, and I'm proud to be part of Unity. I think you kind of know me.
Yes.
So I belong to that as well, and I work there as a guidance counselor as well.
Okay. So going through all these, working through different organizations, Surrey Women's Center, PICS, Options, what did you find? The main kind of barriers that stood out, especially in our South Asian community or for immigrants. What were some of the main barriers that kind of kept standing out?
What I found was people were not seeking out. They were not seeking out for help. There was kind of always like, I think I hear that a lot. They're shy. I don't believe in counseling, some of them. That is what people say, there's another kind of stigma added to it. And that just holds a person back. And also, I find that here, I would say, a new family would have to at least 2 jobs to support the family. And that leaves the children behind with their grandparents. So that is something major that's happening too. And I don't know, it's not nobody to be blamed, because people have to meet their ends. And sometimes I see that due to that, kids end up going in wrong paths as well, because parents are not with them. Yes. So that I see quite a challenge. And I have also been doing counseling for a lot of teens in high schools and their parents as well. And so similar things I find, and also parents know, like, this is what happened when I was growing up back home. So they're not kind of accepting what's happening here right now. So it's kind of very different. It's a shift. So it takes a while to recognize that.
So counseling teens and parents in schools, although like the kids in school are more open now to talking, you have a school counselor, but then getting the parents involved, how is that?
You mean coming to me or going to school?
To you, like you say, you working with the teens and the families.
Yes.
That are in high school. So how was that? Like, were they willing to be on board? Some were, some weren't.
There were some teenagers, grade 12 especially, when parents will, because I will never force anybody to come. It has to be their own call. So once they come, there has been few teens, they will come and sit on the couch for maybe 45 minutes. Next day they'll come, and I'll give them that time, because they want to come, but they're not ready to start it right now. So they'll tell me the name, and we'll get started with the process, and they'll stay. Another day they'll come, they'll stay, they'll be on the phone, and then we'll start initiating the conversation. And slowly they will know, okay, this is what kind of my problems are. And then also later on we'll find, okay, this has to be a joint conversation, not only one person. So it involves the family as well. And then I'll ask, is it okay? Okay, for sure. But I cannot share that information with the parents without their consent anyways. So parents are willing to come because they want to make this change in the family as well.
I'm thinking that, the amount of the devastation and the drug-related gang violence and all of those stuff, bullying and everything, all these traumas that we see in young children and how it impacts families, there is such a huge need for that.
It is,
yes. And do you feel that the community has enough resources to help those people? I know people are having a hard time accessing that service, but does the service meet the requirement of, whatever the needs are?
I said yes and no, because sometimes the service is available, people don't know how to seek it.
Okay.
And secondly, I would say there has to be more done.
More done.
More done. And also in our community especially, I think more help should be provided in our religious communities as well. Not only like main centers, but I mean to say religious organizations as well. So the way they can get those pamphlets or flyers, like where they seek help, right? We cannot say, okay, we are in a mosque or in a temple, it's perfectly fine, there is no crime, nothing, because we don't know, families come there, we don't know who's coming from where and what's happening in their household. So maybe they can just take that little flyer with him when they go home and distribute it to anybody or somebody they can share that information with.
I like that, Anna. I like what you said, that sometimes we believe that people coming there, they're not facing anything, but it's the same people that are facing, it's just a part of engaging in your religious activities. It's just a normal part of your life.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you think we can get our religious partners, them on board to to support is the work we do so that we can help build better children or young adults moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm glad that you asked that.
Uh-huh.
I think they should be inviting people
Mm-hmm.
out in the community who are working in certain areas, and invite them to come to the mosque, temples, or churches to give that, to share that information, what they have. It's always helpful to hear it from people who are out there and they see it live and they have seen the lived experiences of other people. But if just, you read somewhere, you're gonna share it, it's different than people who have seen and worked in that field for themselves. And I also want to say, since we're on the topic of families, due to this COVID, what I have seen a lot of families and children out of high school are facing right now is there's a lot of curiosity from family members. What's your child doing right now? They have finished high school, what are they doing next? There's a lot of pressure. So what families are going through, like, for example, if my child is in the next room, if the family member calls in and to check, okay, one time is okay, you ask what your child is doing. They call again, the same family members, okay, what are they doing right now? Right? So they forget that the person is hearing.
Yeah.
Like, why are they talking about me? Right? Like, within a week, what can change? So this is pandemic, everybody's taking this process. So I have a little humble request to parents and families to please, like, if you make that call to check in with the person, just do the purpose. What is your purpose of the call? Do you want to check in with the person, or just to digging in for more problems for the house? Right? Because I find that sometimes we are more curious of what's happening in other people's homes. Like, तुम्हारे वो क्या कर रहे हैं, अब क्या कर रहे हैं, right? अब क्या कर रहे हैं, क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं, why? Why is it taking so long? So I have a request to people that please give people that time. And we are still living in the pandemic, and things are very challenging for the teenagers right now.
Yeah, I think you bring such a good point, and I'm so glad you touched that, because you think about, the amount of social life children have,
Yes.
and how has the pandemic affected them, and for parents who are still working, who are able to go out, they
Yes.
still maintain the normalcy in their life, but for children, it changed so much, and we need to have a little bit more gentle approach as to how we can support them
Yes.
and include them instead of, just almost
Throwing
like
it.
throwing at them and just saying, I don't trust you, I'm checking up on you, what you're doing. I just
true.
recently read a quote, I think it was just yesterday, that it said that when you constantly tell a child something, the child doesn't stop loving you, they stop loving themselves.
Yes.
And I thought, wow, so it's like, when you're constantly checking on the child stops to trusting themselves.
Yes.
So, to have trust, and if you're not having that trust, then have more family time.
Yes.
Have those family discussions, and it shouldn't be like a checking onto a person should be out of like, it's for a reason.
For a reason.
For
What's
a
the
reason.
purpose of your call?
What is the purpose?
Yes.
You should have those family values and trust within your own homes.
Yes. Yeah, and then when they ask questions, and sometimes the same parents who are receiving these calls, they are talking to me and saying, when they ask me questions, I have the obligation to reply to them. Now, every time I have to tell them, okay, they're not ready, they will do it when they're ready, but then I get the same family member calling again for the same information. And my child is listening to all this every time. So there is kind of conflicts here and there. So, like, there's a lot of other things people can do than digging for that, right?
Wow, you think that, sometimes you don't realize that if you're having a phone call with even the counselor, oh, my child is not doing, they're in the next room listening. They already have, and I know, I'm not dismissing the parents. I think the parents are struggling too, having to, how to adjust and adapt with the pandemic and the children and all, the society that is we are surrounded in. There's so much negativity happening, so much, drugs, alcohol, gang violence, all of those, we're surrounded by that. It's affecting all of us. But we still have to be mindful as to how our behavior is going to impact the person in the next room.
Yes.
And I think just focusing more on yourself
Self.
and your kind of household than others.
True.
Working with kids, youth, children, also adults, and psychology. What are some of the signs? Like, you said you wanted to make a difference. You had the experience with your cousin who committed suicide. Of maybe somebody that's leading up to that. Obviously, depression plays a role. What is something either in your child or some of the peers, can see someone who is depressed, who is maybe given up on life?
Okay, some of the signs you will see, like for now, right now, people are home already in their room, so that's the only place, it's a safe place for now. So that I cannot use that, but we can also try to have that conversation with the person. Like, try to check in. First, I will say, just like we check in with the whole world, check in with people in your own home, like how they are doing, how their day was. And sometimes if they're not in the mood, you don't know what's happening in their life. Maybe they had a tough day themselves, and they're not in the mood to share that right now. So it's okay. It's okay for them not to have. And then if it's happening every time, then of course, then there is something wrong with that, right? And of course, in high schools, we have this bullying system going on. So if you see a person being isolated, like coming to, like that's what's happening quite before COVID as well. They'll come home, throw the bag away, be in the room, and they will not want to talk to anybody. And then observe the signs, and then see that if even in the schools, if the teacher tells you as a parent, that we have noticed such and such about your child in school, don't ignore it. It's a sign something is wrong. Even in school, they are not associating, they're left behind. Try to know why that's happening, and try to check in with the parents. And if they have friends and stuff, try to have like at least a contact information of their friends. Like if something happens, my child is missing, I know whom to call. So that's your initial contact number there.
So what about some of the supports? I guess through school. What do you? They have the school counselor, and what else can the children connect to, other than that?
The schools is usually their school system, and they are kind of promoting lots of sports in school as well, so that keeps them active and get going. And so I think that's what's happening right now due to COVID. There's not much, I would say, because things were online anyways. So. And they can form their own support system at school too, I think, but I'm not too sure about that during this COVID right now, because less connection right now is happening.
So I'm thinking that, culturally, I feel like, children, like even I feel like when I was growing up, it's almost like I cannot tell my parents that because my parents would understand. They will get angry. Like if I skip school because I was bullied or something like that, I couldn't go tell my parents. They'd probably give me 2 more sticks and like, you better show up to school tomorrow. So when you talk about this culturally, are there like, how we have phones set up for supports? Can children call a number? Are there numbers available in the city?
Yes, there are numbers available. I don't have it offhand with me, but there is support system available for adults and also for teens. For kids as well. Yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
So that would be something that we can definitely share on our MindSense page, so that children have access to those. Sometimes you don't want to talk to somebody that you feel that you just want to talk to somebody to hear you, instead of we think that we're going to approach my family or my friend or my cousin or somebody and they're going to ask me a million other questions. Somebody who just want to be heard.
And sometimes you don't know where that information is going to go next.
Oh, that's another thing.
Well,
right?
sometimes you have the trusting members in your family where you can share that, but there is also another one that from there maybe it's gonna, I'm telling me, and then from me I go to Sarita, from Sarita I go to somebody else, right? So, and by the time it goes to fourth person, it'll be more flavored. It will not, it defeats the purpose of what the person told you at the beginning. So there's a reason when we say when you seek out for help, it has to be a neutral person. There is no judgments, and people will sit and genuinely listen to what you have to say and what's going on in your life without giving their own opinions. It's like, this is what's happening, okay, I hear you saying this. Is this what's happening? This is how you're feeling. So counseling is a process. Each individual has different issues to deal with.
And I just want to touch back, जो घर की कहानी होती है ना, the parents or somebody's tutor, अरे सुना उसके लड़का के, उसके बच्चे के, all of that stuff. So I think that we all, most of us are parents. Everybody faces challenges, struggles, mental health, and all of us are touched by grief. It can affect us differently. So we be mindful of how we are talking about other people, other children. If you cannot talk to about another person in a supportive role, might not say anything. Don't say anything, because you could be doing more harm, to the person. And everybody is important. Everybody is valuable. Everybody can move forward, given they have the right supports and the right people to guide them.
And even if you know that the person is coming for you because they trust you, trust is very important here. They trust you, that's why they come to you. And if you know that you cannot be that provider, then please refer them to somebody who they can go out. I have like a lot of people have called me regarding this, and then it's not that I'm going to take on everything on me, because there's some fields I'm not aware of, so might as well I refer them to people where they can get the professional help they need. So refer, there's a lot of help in the community. So if I'm not there, there's another person who can take it. I have a wait list and somebody else can take it, because when a person makes an initial call, they need that help right away. It's not a matter of waiting for like 2-3 weeks in a month. Who knows what happens in a month, right? So be the support.
And so, what about yourself? I mean, obviously,
that was going to be my question too.
Working in this field is very stressful. I mean, you hear a lot. You try to help, but you're also hearing a lot of people's experiences, traumas. So, how do you manage that? Keeping yourself, grounded, mentally well, checking in with yourself. How do you do that for yourself?
Self-care.
Self-care, that's very important for me and for everybody that we help too. And how I do my self-care, at the end of the day, I have to have my quiet time. My quiet time will be a book and my cup of coffee. So that's how I relax. And we have set up an outside gazebo, so I love to enjoy there. Well, we didn't do this much that because it has been crazy busy. And I also love to go with my family for outdoor events. So I love to go for to go to the island and stuff, which I love to see the ocean. So that's what I do for myself. And to read, and also to take a break when it's weekend. I know work's important, but I'm saying it for everybody in general. We know that's why we do what we're doing. But it's important that you take time out for self-care. It's really,
take care of yourself
really
first.
Yes, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of
anybody else.
Yes,
very true. So thank you, Shabnam, for being in the studio and sharing a lot of information with us. It was nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for the work we do. We would love to, get those numbers and share it on our website so that children and parents can access those services. And thanks again for coming to the show.
Thank you. It's already time?
Yes, already time.
Time's up. Okay. So thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, this is your host, Meena J.
And I'm your host, Sarita Chand.